We're continuing on Tafkuf Pehei Sif Beis. Koidem Sheyitka Yivorach L'Shma Kol Shofar. The mitzvah is not to blow the shofar. The mitzvah is to hear the sound of the shofar. So that the bracha makes that quite clear. Yivorach Shechianu, and you make a Shechianu. It should be in the new room that we go in. Yivorach Shechianu, and you make a Shechianu like you do on all mitzvahs. Why does the Shechianu that you make on at the night not include the mitzvah of shofar? The same question I could ask about sukkah. You make a bracha shechianu on the sukkah, you make a shechianu on Filas Lulav. But if I remember correctly, you don't make a shechianu on matzah. Yes, you're not on.
Oh, okay. You make one is on the yom and the other is on the actual thing. On the lulav, you make it a shechianu on the lulav.
Why? So why can't it be on both?
Each one is a separate mitzvah. They're a distinct mitzvah.
So why is it that you don't make a shechianu on motzi, on matzah?
There's no simcha.
There's a simcha. There's a simcha needing.
Okay, so what about Mora?
Because it's bitter. You don't make something. You don't make a shechianu until it's bitter.
The answer to the question is very simple.
Yeah.
The answer to the question is, according to some the Kiddush that shechianu is, but there's another thing. You're in the wrong time zone. You cannot shake your lulav at night. So why don't you make a shechianu today? It's the wrong time. According to some, that's the reason why. We're in tough kuf pehei. So the same applies to shofar. Why can't your shofar include the shechianu on the end to include the shofar? So the answer is because you don't blow shofar at night.
What does that have to do with it? What does one thing have to do with the other?
Could you make a shechianu today at your shofar?
Can I make a shechianu when? For shofar? No.
Or not?
It's not the Siman for shofar. It's not the mitzvah.
Right.
The mitzvah.
And neither is Rosh Hashanah night.
Oh, the mitzvah is not till the day. Okay.
You can't do it at night, right?
Right. Well, you can do it, but you just don't fulfill the mitzvah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't argue with that. But you're not supposed to blow into muksa. Anyways, we're not making blowing unless you need to practice, whatever. Anyways, we'll leave that. But that's, you make a shechianu. Doesn't make any difference if you're blowing for yourself, you're blowing for other people, you still make the brachas. If the care makes the brachas, that is being said. Now, the truth of the matter is, I just like to point it out, there's really no reason in the world that the Takeh should make the brachas. I just got finished saying, about a minute ago, that the mitzvah is l'shmoa kol shofar.
Right.
Bishleima, like Mikra Megillah, so he's the guy who's learning it for you. But he's not hearing the shofar for you. You're hearing the shofar for yourself. He's just the instrument that's producing the noise. So why should he be the one to make the bracha?
Officially, somebody else could make the bracha for him.
I'm not arguing with you. I just asked you a question. If you were the one to create the halachas over here, is that what you would create? If I were to ask you, who should make the bracha?
Of course, the person who's blowing the shofar should make the brachas.
Why is that of course? To me, it's not of course.
I mean, he's the one who's blowing for you. So he's the shaliach for you. So,
no, he's not. What's
he's
the,
not.
Again, listen. Yisrael, listen.
Yeah.
What did he say? What is the lashon of bracha?
L'shmoa.
Why?
Because it's the person who hears who fulfills the mitzvah. Right.
There is no mitzvah to blow the shofar. Just you have to blow the shofar in order to hear it.
Yeah, but he has to hear it also. He has to fulfill the mitzvah.
That's it.
So by him,
What does that do with me? Yes, but have such difficult rabbis in America too, or just here in Israel?
no, in America too.
Okay. Anyways, you have an answer for the question? That doesn't answer my question. Why? Let's say I already was yet to the mitzvah of Kiyah Shofar. Now I'm blowing for you. Who should make the bracha? What don't you know? I'm not going to bite your head off. What don't you know? That's right. That's what you should say. I think that's a valid question. Why should the Baal Tekeh make it? I'm not arguing. Not only that, if I'm blowing and you want to be Yaitza, he could also make the brachas. There's room for everybody. We didn't forget about you. There's room for everybody. But why should the Baal blowing the shofar make the brachas? This is actually a little bit of a discussion. Anyway. What's the mitzvah? What's the mitzvah over there? It's not so clear. Here, the mitzvah is only to hear. There, the mitzvah is to read. But the thing that's happening, the mitzvah that's happening, is reading. So there's a shomer ka'oneh. There's no shomer ka'oneh in blow the shofar, yes. There's no shomer ka'oneh. The mitzvah is to be shomer. Shomer ka'shomer. That's good. It's even saying the gematria. Okay. Anyway, even though it's not so simple. All right. Anyways, the Yiska Tashrat shows problem. Tashrat shows problem. Tashrat shows problem. The Tov Litkra b'tzad Yamin. You should blow. You should blow on the right side. And actually, if you can do it. The Chen Yahav Chashay for the Milo. You have the large part of the mouth of the shofar facing upwards. Shanema Olola Kim B'Surah. Because Baruch Hu is Oila B'Surah. All right, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Yivarach Lishmoya, Ritzoyin Eloymar, Shelo Yoymar Litkar B'Shofar. You should make a bracha to blow the shofar, because that's wrong. Why? The mitzvah of shofar is not to blow shofar. The mitzvah of shofar is to hear the shofar. So can we have it on tape?
Yes, in essence, yes, because you're hearing it.
Oh, you fell into it.
Yep.
What are you hearing?
Maybe you're not hearing it directly. You have to hear it directly. That would be the difference.
A tape is not even indirectly. You're not hearing it at all.
Well, you are hearing it, but you might not be hearing. You are hearing it.
The shofar has long since been destroyed.
You're hearing a reproduction of it.
That's it. That's right. Now, maybe we could argue about if you're hearing it on. But someone told me, by the way, just to make this clear. Someone asked me a question about if you could answer unnamed bracha said on Zoom, and I said I think so. So the person told me that he thinks that there's a delay. I don't know if that's true. I find it this year. I find it hard to believe that there's a delay. That if there is, it's like a half a second. I don't see the delay. I don't know. Maybe I'm making a mistake.
When there's two on, if you have two Zooms, the next to each other, there's a delay. There's a delay in one of them.
Is that a way that you could prove it to me, or you told me that it's different than regular?
There's probably a way I can prove it. I can put it over here on this tablet, and I can do it on my phone. and I think we
Now,
have a delay.
how long is the delay?
It could be 2 or 3 seconds even.
I can't be, because I'm having a conversation with you and there's no delay. There's something can't be.
It's the same as a delay if you would talk to someone in Chutz La'aretz on the phone.
There's no delay.
There's a slight delay, or it could be worse, depending on the connection.
Yeah, I understand. But that delay, we're not talking about.
We're not talking about 4 seconds.
You're talking about a third of a second. You're talking about a very minor thing, right?
It could be more, but not usually not more.
Yeah, Shofar, what do you want to say?
How do we know that the mitzvah is to hear and not to blow it?
Oh, yeah, we have to learn the Ran on that question. The Ran at the end of
Rosh Hashanah.
the end of Rosh Hashanah. But I just want to make something clear. All this question was really, I wanted to get to the next point. This wasn't the point of the question. The question that I wanted to ask is as follows. If a person is going to have a tape, you definitely can't be Yaitza, because that's not the voice. Whether you can be Yaitza on the telephone or on Zoom, right? That's a question in the place which I'm not going to get involved in. But the question which I want to ask, which everybody should agree to, if I had a guy blowing the shofar, would you be able to be Yaitza then? Because you're hearing the call shofar.
Officially, yeah.
Oh, you all are sleeping. Every single one of you is sleeping. When do you have a problem with the guy's a Bar Chiyuv or not? If he's being moitzi you. He's not being moitzi you. The mitzvah is shmir. Oh, that's what the Ram says. What are you talking about? What is that? Simcha, what do you say?
It's less than a second. Definitely
Less than a second. Okay. Okay. I feel like I have a clone. Anyways, the bottom line is that that's the point.
If a Shomea Ka'ona, so anytime you're being Yotzi yourself because you're Shomea Ka'ona, so why does the other person have to be a Bar Chiyuva?
Because you're wearing it's like you are mouthing him.
Why am I mouthing him? I'm mouthing the words. It's as if I'm saying the same words, isn't it?
But in order to have a Shomea Ka'ona, the person has to be a Bar Chiyuva.
Why?
I can't
I mean,
answer
the
that
same question you're asking here. I'm going to ask.
No, it's not. No, I don't think it's the same question. I don't think it's the same question. But anyways, the bottom line is the Ron says what Ari Waldman said over here before, that you have to hear the voice of the shofar, and the voice of the shofar that is produced by a guy is not called the voice of the shofar. And this is learned from a pasuk, Ashrei Ha'am Yodei Sruah. That we know how to create. In other words, there's some kind of a chalois that happens when a Jew blows a shofar that's different than a guy blowing a shofar. Now, if you think that this idea is strange to you, I would like to challenge you and say that all of you know that if a guy writes a Sefer Torah, it's not a Sefer Torah. Why not? Why not? There's a halacha that you have to be.
Magid Varav Yaakov.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the source. I'm talking about the concept. The concept is whether it looks the same or not. There's very little. Sometimes it's because of the Shema, I agree. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about even that it's something different. They can't do it. They can't be mechal the thing. While the Shema is a question that even a guy could do it if he had a Middle Gabo. There are ways to create support that would allow that to happen. Look,
Is it not an issue of kavana when blowing?
no.
If he's walking,
issue.
if he's
That's
walking
another
behind,
That's another issue. The initial issue is that it's not a kol shofar. The sound of a shofar created by a guy is lacking, not because it's lacking the chalais. That's all.
The Mishnah toward the end talks about somebody walking a beis al knesses. And if you look, keeping
That's kavanah. There's also halacha kavanah. That's true. That's also true.
So you don't have to come onto the fancy.
No, but what about if the guy would have in mind? Because we might see you.
We know a guy's kavanah is no kavanah.
I don't know that.
Of course.
I don't know that because I know that's what I mentioned before, that there's a shiloh if a guy could write a get if he has a go Yisrael or the Gabo.
Like by Shchita and Ner Chanukah and all of those places.
By Shchita, on the contrary, by Shchita we have a problem that he's a Shechet of the Zorah. Each one has its own. It's not always so. It's not. I'm not trying to make.
I'm not giving you a hard time either. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I wish you were. Anyway.
But we know a guy has a machshava l'mitzvah. It doesn't help him. Or he has to do the ma'aseh. And a Jew who has a machshava l'mitzvah, it is counted. So we see there's a difference in the level of machshava between.
This is true, but I don't know as anything.
Although by Vera it's the opposite, so his machshava does work.
No.
And what's the other way too? That's. I just want to make it. That has to do with a different aspect, just to complicate matters, to make you understand that it's like that. A guy who has a machshava to do an avera, it's called he did the avera, and a Jew who has machshava to do avera, it's not called an avera. So in the world of mitzvahs and averas, it depends on what your default mode is, and I think that's a totally different subject. But it is true. All right. Anyways, I was just pointing out this nekuda, why you should blow. It's not so simple. What do you blow? You blow those things, and you do it on the side you mean. Okay. So says the
Well, that means you can't blow it like a trumpet. Is that what it means? Because a trumpet, you blow it straight, with your lips over here. The shofar, you blow on the side. So it says you do it inside the mix. So that means if the person does it like a trumpet, it would be
yotzei. If you did it like a trumpet. That's just a Halacha Shiur to blow it on the right side. It's not the ikuva. Okay, person who blew the shofar and he didn't hear it, he had earplugs in, you're not yotzei. The Moshe is Baruch Simkov Tov Beizayim. The Yoymar B'Kol, the Mashal Lasas V'Tzaynoi, if you have it in Birchot K'ah Shofar, or Al K'ah Shofar, or the Shmuel Kol Shofar, yotzei. Anyone, if you made the bracha, even the wrong bracha, you're yotzei. Then not to our shofar be'emtzat kiyos, if you were a shofar acher. If they took away the shofar and they brought you a different one, ein tzarech levarach. Avo, lev, you have last week's piece, I need it now. That Jew has been united. Avo, ben bracha, l'tchilas atkiyos, tzarech levarach. But if you switch the shofar between the brachas and the tchilas, so then you would need to make a new bracha. Now this halacha sounds like a simple halacha, and it's far from clear to me that everybody agrees with it, and I'd like to explain. When a person is eating, so you're allowed to talk in the middle of the meal, but you're not allowed to talk until you take your first bite. That part is simple. Why? Because you have to have the bracha bichal on something, right? But once you started eating, or even if you're doing a mitzvah, once you, let's speak about a simple case, you started eating matzah, so theoretically, if you talk, you're still okay. If you're not supposed to do it,
what was the people looking for it? This is
beginning of Siman Lamed Aleph. Last week,
I got it. Okay, one moment.
Da-da-dum. Here we go. Okay. I just would like to read the question over here inside, and I don't know. I remember how much I gave him to prepare for this. So now we're starting off with this subject we've discussed many times. and it comes up a few different times. The person makes a bracha on the Sefer Torah, and then the Sefer Torah becomes puzzled, and takes on a different Sefer Torah, because you have to make a new bracha. So the pashtus is, I'm not getting involved in, this is not a Hilchos Torah Shiur, so I'm not getting involved in the Maisa, the Raisa. What? Right, we discussed this, that your yaitza with the previous bracha. So here, what about the shofar? When a person makes a bracha on the shofar, is he making a bracha on the shofar? On the kol shofar. Is he making a bracha on the kol of this shofar? So what do I care if he switches shofars? So why? Wow! Why did you have to start it? It's never chal on anything, right? So when there'll be a kol. Listen to, so you just right now fell into it. This is exactly the point over here. Masha shalta noto shofar be'emtzat kiyas avia shofar achim tzorach levorach shenis. Masha lebadayt l'adam l'tzedem direch al pi v'nochel miyado. Yeah. Be'emes ein adinyan zeh oil yofa. Why? He said you fell right into it. I said right. Kishom ikar habracha al hapri shorayt zelecho. What are you making a bracha on? This apple. I want to eat this apple. So I'm making a bracha on this apple. This apple. Shatam also lehenas me'elamah zebla bracha chayvu levorach alav. You have to make a bracha on it. V'lachei chal habracha al hapri shenoito biyado la'oichlet. Mash'en ken kan lo shayach l'memer shechayev bracha al hashofar she'achzu biyadoi. Yikra bracha al mitzvah shei shel tekiah. V'oid shegam nusach habracha ein al hashofar. Rak al hakol ha'yotze mimenu. So what do I care if you have this one or not? Mashamora echad roitza l'damoisa l'had birech al amas hamayim shenizker enka bracha l'kom chulu. Itim over Mashenke kan ki Hashem yodim sheyavo shofar acher bevade el adavar asid lava b'meila ki chulu mishabich al yad noitzi v'chulu. This is what he starts off with. He says that two things are not shofar is much easier. So therefore, Vada, you have to switch shofars. Doesn't make anything. When he comes up at the end of the tshuva with a reason why to say that if you didn't start anything, so then you could be that you lost the bracha altogether. But this is a chiddush. Yeah, I have this circled over here. V'chein gam tiknu al sefer Torah shevarach shenis v'shil kavod HaTorah shel hayom hashniya paguma she'en mevarachin alel. If you're just going to take out a second sefer Torah, according sometimes you have to make it a bracha. Why? So there shouldn't be a pigam on the second sefer Torah, but not because really you need to have a new bracha. Mashenke shofar shi brichas ha-mitzvah yeshleimer de'ein tzarich levarach shenis kivon shakol mitzvah achas ve'ein bracha al ha-shofar rak al ha-tekiyah. V'fim ha'shikos l'abach nechoynim sham limtzah k'mordechai v'chulu v'josiyad de'im nimtzah ta'os koydim ha-kriyah la'achar shebirich kvar hoti acheres ein tzarich l'achar levarach l'nis daiti u't'mua v'tzarich levarach mashes v'heitim b'shem shu v'schoshanim v'chulu. Okay. And that's I'm just pointing out this halacha is a fascinating halacha, big makom iyun, and if I'm not mistaken, I spoke about this once. I actually had the question, I think, from somebody here in RBS. The guy made a bracha on his Neiros Hanukkah, and then someone came and kicked the stool over that all the stuff was in it, and he lost it all. And a question, you have to make a new bracha. What do you make a bracha on? That oil? That candle? On the mitzvah? What are you making it on? So this has to do with this Jewish binyan. I keep it in mind because this concept comes up many times.
That was before he lit
Before he lit anything. He made a bracha, he was bending down, he kicked the chair that was holding the thing down, and the whole thing went all over the place. Better luck next time. Anyways.
The Shlemazel.
The doctor will not be able to follow someone else's shofar. He'll just have to try again on his own, won't
he? I'm not capable of answering that question. Why can't he borrow somebody else's? Yeah, it could very well be. You can wash it out. Why can't you? Why, I'm not. What? What? I don't know. No, I'm not right now. I'm not capable of answering that question. I don't know. Do you know that you wash it out with alcohol? Alcohol kill it, right?
I'm not sure alcohol actually kills the virus in the world, as opposed to bacteria. Bleach. Hydroperoxide.
Okay, I don't know. I for sure don't know, but I'm for sure not. I don't know what would happen if the other guy didn't do a shofar for X amount of time. You can do it too, right? All I can tell you, I've never been in a shul that the Baltakeya used somebody else's shofar. I've seen them switch their own shofar many times. I never saw the guy use somebody else's shofar. I never saw that because a guy blows on his shofar. He didn't touch anybody else's shofar. Anybody else's shofar. Right? They said they're not going to blow on somebody else's shofar. It's not going to happen.
Same thing with the moral and the shochet.
The same thing with the moral and the shofar.
They use their own tools.
100%. And it's not even for religious things. In anything, right? In anything that person has, these are professionally fashioned. I'll just tell you, it's a piece of information, like halachic information that's fascinating. I learned shechita under many people. One of the people that I learned from, he was actually a shochet in Lemire before the war. An old Litvak. I don't know if you know him, Peretz. He came from Chicago. Sigler, his name was. And this guy, Sigler, was a very big Talmud Chacham. He started shechting in Dubuque, Iowa, when they would shecht 60 head a day. When he left, they were shechting, I think, 120 an hour, something like that. So he grew with the system. Now he was a professional. He was a professional. And he had I don't know what the smith who does this exactly, he had a mold made of his hand, the grip of his hand, and the handles of his sakin shashchita was fashioned that he could hold it without exercising effort. And he had them counterweighted. No, he would never touch, there's no way that this guy was ever going to use somebody else's stuff. It's like that's called a professional. A professional guy doesn't, in your line of work, there's no such thing as the person who has tools, are there?
Once you get used to certain things, it's hard to use someone else's.
You in the same one?
Different drills, different weights.
Yeah, okay, I'm saying, but anybody who works professionally, that's just, I know.
When I do lock work, I want to use my tools. I know exactly what I have. I know exactly I want to use my tools. I don't want to use somebody else's tools. No question about it.
Right. So about the case, the same thing. Anything like that in any profession.
Same thing with keyboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have mine set up where I need it. Was the question if you switch the Baal Tokeh, does he have to make a new bracha? Was that the question?
No. He said what happens this year. The question that was being floored was, we assume that the Baal Tokeh has in mind all shofars that he may need to use, and therefore he may need to use somebody else's shofar that may be offered to him when his shofar is not blowing. That was the question which you meant to ask, right? And I said, as far as I'm concerned, you could use that anyways. And I just commented that it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened yet. I don't think it's going to happen either. That somebody's going to use somebody else. It just doesn't.
When I was a kid, it happened.
What?
When I was a kid, it most definitely happened.
Did they use somebody else's chauffeur?
People weren't as professional, so they would also switch Baalei Tkiya, also switch chauffeur, until someone found one he was lucky with,
Fine, whatever, it's fine.
Right? You remember that too, no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Anyway,
the shul would have the chauffeur if the guy blowing was not able to do his, so they'll take the shul chauffeur to blow it. That's
Okay.
it's a common thing.
So if someone else takes over, does he have to make a new bracha?
No, we're about to learn that right now.
Okay.
Okay, and the answer to that is if that new person is part of the kehila, there's no reason to make a new bracha. If he's a new guy that walked in off the street and he's being yaitza now himself, then he'll have to make a new bracha. But the kehila, once the bracha was made, then we're in business. In kvar yatza, achronim helu the oifen zeh shekvar yatza tekeh ba'atmo tov yaitza she'evarchu Hashem v'atmu shnei brachos. If he already was yaitza, so as I asserted before, the other people they should make the brachas. Why? Because that's what makes sense. What does he have to do with anything? About the has nothing to do with anything.
Well, we do it for Kiddush.
Does it help for main brachas?
I mean, it's a birchas nanin, but we still do it.
You do what for Kiddush?
The person will say the brachas being able to the other people instead of telling them to make it themselves.
You could do it here too. I didn't say you can't do it. You didn't say you can't do it. You could do it. You said there's no the normal thing is the person should do it himself. All right. My place. Okay.
Uminag ha'olam.
Minig ha'olam. Uminig ha'olam. The hakel atzia b'chol gavnei. That the Baal makes the brachas, except for our women. We'll learn about that at some point later on. Then the place behem. You can't know it can be the what's supposed to be first ragro. Umi should stop it in Shema called Shofar. Or not alulov. We have reached into him at the Ve'elam Mevorach. Why? Because Safik brachas were hakel. But we have changed. How we do very safe in Safik Taya. The Safik the very safe in the Now, over here,
What's the second Medina business that Dafka the Baltka has to make the bracha? We kind of started with that question. I didn't really understand why that's so. Why does he have to make the bracha l'maisa?
He doesn't have to. He can.
Why is it Maker Adin that he should be making it?
No, Medina. There's no reason why he can't. Not that he should. He can. All right. Now, I just want to mention something over here, which is a fascinating idea. This is why people have to know a lot before they answer questions. There's halacha safek d'rabbanan v'kula. Everybody knows that. However, sometimes you have a matzav, what's called a cheskas chiyuv. So there's a machlokes achronim. If you say safek d'rabbanan v'kula when you're a cheskas chiyuv. And now one of the cases where this is Nageya.
Safek d'rabbanan or Safek brachas?
Both, the same thing. I'll use a case where this is Nageya. A lady is Tameh, and she went to the mikveh, and she has a Safek d'rabbanan that says that maybe the tefillah was no good. So they say Safek d'rabbanan kula. Or we say that when she has a cheskas iser, so in order to exonerate her from her cheskas iser, it's not enough. Yeah, it's a clear the nechitim. I don't know, what we're talking about over here. So what did we just learn? What happens the second day of Rosh Hashanah? We're all mechuyev to hear the shofar for the second day of Rosh Hashanah. It's a chiyuv d'rabbanan, and you have a suffix if you're yaitzer. What does the Mishnah Berurah say? You don't have to. Keep that in mind because you'll be able to pull out that card at other places where we see skewers to this halacha. But this is what the Achronim point out over here in this thing. All right. ויזכה את השעת של השפעה וטעם לסדר הזה, על הטעמון, בצד ימין שפיו, משום דרסות נועמד על ימינו לסיפנו. ומשהו התקרב בכך, ומיה שלו אין להפריד, ואף ימינו בצד שמאל, I'll be a shefer that's not small. Okay. The Chayav to Shefer, it's a Roma, Shetel, Shehapach, the Shefer of Maila, let's start it. Now, there's a question over here, which is fascinating. What's the halacha if the guy is a lefty? Which side does he do it? Yefeh. Okay, it says the Sutton is always on the same side. How do you know that, by the way? I'm now going to read over here Sharitzia, and then you'll see why I'm asking that question.
Is the question is what side does he hold it with, or what side does he blow it with?
Isn't that the same thing?
No.
No.
Are you asking what
which
he holds?
hand is holding it?
Which hand is holding it? But everybody holds.
Which side of his mouth is that?
That's what you're okay.
Says the Sharitzia Yitches, Umakid Avrom Kosov Atam, Mishum de the small Hatfilan Meginin. So you don't need it on the side small, you need it on the side Yamin. You see him in K, Ita Yad Yeshet Toya B'Yin Didei. Okay? And I didn't forget about it, I skipped it. The Eshed de Tamarisha L'Shaychzeh. Because the Satan is Oymed Al Yaminoi, doesn't depend if you're righty or lefty. I don't know. Could be yes. Could be he always stands on the rightest, stronger side, or weaker side. I don't know how. I'm not so familiar with the Satan. The Satan's very familiar with me, but I'm not so familiar with him. Yeah, correct. The core of Loimar Sharif Neza Loyehetik Agraz Achila Kazeh. ועוד, החמן מוישה כוסב לאו דווקא שהצילום שיד תקייב בגינו, אלא תפילין בארבע מגינים על מידס שמאל, שהוא דין. תפילין, and this is an international civilization, לפיכך היחיליק בין איתר ואחר, וכן יהיה בכוונס, and everybody does it on the right side. I'll just point out to you, for those who are Chassidish over here, they know that Chassidim button their clothing like ladies do, right over left. Why? Because chesed is supposed to be overdid. Okay, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? So, because the chesed is inside yamin, the gvura, what about the guys who lefty? Can I do a him?
Let's see better. Can a lefty be yotzi if a righty is blowing shofar?
Even a lefty can be yaitze if a lefty is blowing shofar on the right side. It's like a righty being yaitze if a righty blew it on the left side. Everybody says he yaitze.
It's not big edition.
It's
You
not.
know what the doctor said about the dressing? Why not go to a bosh?
Big edition.
Listen, dressing like one
Big edition.
By the way, just first, are you aware? Do you know why women dress the other way? You have this the other way?
Someone once made it up.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The reason why is because women used to have clothing with an unbelievable amount of buttons on them, and the wealthy women would have somebody dress them and close their buttons with the buttons in the back, and it was made for the person who was the dresser of the mistress of the house. Okay, it's a very important fact to know in life. That's why it has nothing to do with men and women, but that's what eventually. And the men used to just wear simple clothing, and they were able to do it by themselves. That's what they did. Check it out. That's what's okay. There's anything about it. And not only that, the Jews were doing it chesed over din well before the women of the Dark Ages came into existence.
So the Hasidim had people dress them?
What?
Hasidim had people dress them?
No, they had the Hasidim do it because
they had it reversed also. So.
What had it reversed?
Well, you said they have it like the women because the women had it for people to dress them. So the Hasidim also.
Yeah, no, but the Hasidim have it because they have chesed over din. They have a different reason. That's why it's done with after. Okay, we're gonna stop over here.
A left-handed person talks out of the left side of his mouth also. Have a good night. If they talk out of the left side of